In this video, we're going to look at using two tools, Classkick and Nearpod, to see student thinking live as it's happening. So we'll start with Classkick and we'll look at how we can see student responses when they type, when they draw or write with a pen tool, when they use a multiple choice or a fill-in or a voice record option. So this is Classkick. This is the dashboard after I've assigned work. So let's look at what it looks like when we are editing this work. I can upload the assignment here, or I can paste in separate pieces of work on each slide. Here I have some manipulatives. The students will be able to drag and drop them. On the next slide, they have a problem set. So when we go to the student view, they can use a writing tool. They can use a text box. And I can see that work. So if I go back to the teacher view and I want to view work, I can see that work happening live. I can click in. I can see there's some work that was done here. Let's click into it and see the work that was just put in. If I go back to that dashboard view, I can see how far each student has gone. If the page has turned white, they've got that far. Amy has gone all the way to the fourth question, but then went back to the second question. The outline is going to tell us how far they are right now. So I can see how far they are. I can encourage students as they move along, and I can dive in and check the work that they're on at that moment. So that is how we can look at the draw and write option, the typing option. Multiple choice and fill in, we can build that in as well. In this case, when I edit, I put a fill-in box here. When I put my fill-in box, it gives me the option to put an acceptable answer. I put the correct answer at 936. On the next slide, it gave me an option using multiple choice to put in a multiple choice option, and I selected the correct answer here in that multiple choice option. So when we go back again to student work, you can see I put in the correct answer as a student here. I kept working. I put in the incorrect answer here. If we look at the dashboard view as the teacher, I can see right away that this student got an answer correct on this page. It tells me the correct answer that that student put. I can see on this page that the student got it wrong, and it tells me what wrong answer they chose. So I can see the misconceptions right away as I look at my dashboard view overall. So that covers how students can type, draw, or write, use multiple choice, or fill in the Classkick tool. We'll look at how they could voice record an answer and how they can even put in on-paper responses now. So if I'm a student and I want to explain my answer to this question, for example, I can choose the voice recorder. I can start recording. I can record my file, and I can drop it wherever it goes. If I'm the teacher, I can jump to that student and I can listen to their response. I can record my file. I can listen to their response in real time, so they can always give me a verbal response. And finally, if this one is one that they want to show on their page, they can draw a response here. Maybe they're working with a place value chart. They can, if I go back to the student view, camera, hold it up, capture it, and it will insert right onto that page in real time. One note, if you are using this tool, if I'm the teacher and I'm helping Amy, I can see Amy's work. If I go back to the view, I can see that she did in fact insert a picture there. If you're using this tool in a live synchronous lesson on a Chromebook, if a student is on Zoom and on a Chromebook, they will not be able to use the camera for the Zoom and for the Classkick at the same time. Simple solution. You put students who are working into the waiting room. You say, as soon as I see your picture pop up for question number 3, I'm going to bring you right back from the waiting room. When they're in the waiting room, they'll be able to use the Classkick camera. Those are ways that we can see student work live in real time on Classkick. You saw the dashboard view. You're able to see progress, how far they've moved with that black rectangle around the page that they're on. You can see the current location. You can see correct or incorrect responses in that dashboard view once again as they come up. So we could see those correct and incorrects. We can see how far they've gone. Finally, you can also provide feedback directly to students in Classkick. So if I go back to that teacher view, I can jump onto this page where the student made a mistake, and I can give feedback in a text box. I can give feedback in the form of a written or highlighted piece of feedback. And I can drop that right on the student's page. The student will then see that feedback popping up on their page. And there's also this option to give stickers. So I can add a sticker of something that I'm commonly going to use, and then I can drop that feedback wherever it goes. I can even use the stickers on the gallery view here. So I can remind lots of students if they're making the same mistake, I can just drop it right onto their page from this gallery view. So that's sticker feedback. And finally, I can give verbal feedback as well. So if I jump into Allie's work here and I want to give some verbal feedback, same as the student, I can record. Keep up the good work, Allie. I know you can do it. Stop and save. And I can drop it wherever I want that to go. If you're teaching on Zoom live, mute yourself, give live feedback, give audio feedback to as many students as you want, drop it on their page, and then unmute yourself and continue to work. And now I'm talking individually to students instead of talking so that all of the students can hear. So those are my options with Classkick. Some similar options with Nearpod. You do not have the individualized feedback option, but we'll look at what you do have. Seeing student responses, we can do an open-ended question, a draw it, or a quiz. Let's jump into this lesson here. And we'll use our Nearpod add-on. If we use an open-ended question, students can write or audio record themselves in response. The downside of an open-ended question is you will not see their work live. You will see it when they press submit. So if it's a 2 or 3 minute question that they're responding to, then I will not be able to see their work until they submit. If I turn on audio recordings, same thing, they can record themselves. When they submit, I'll be able to listen to the recording in real time. A draw it, on the other hand, I can see as soon as they start drawing or writing. So if you are asking a question that's going to take 2 or 3 minutes to respond to, you're better off using a draw it. And then having students use a text box. Students can put a text box on their draw it. The downside to a draw it is you cannot provide a audio record option. So if you want students to respond verbally, you'll need to use an open-ended question. So here's a draw it. Students will respond by putting in a text box if you want a written response, and you'll be able to see their work immediately. If they are drawing or using the writing tool, the pencil tool to write, again, you'll see their work immediately, truly in real time. And you can do the same with a quiz. With a quiz, you will have multiple choice options to choose from as opposed to the written options. We're going to look at some more advanced options within our Nearpod now. So if we wanted to include manipulatives and we could, again, see student work with that manipulative, you would make a slide like this one that has some manipulatives on it. I just made a bunch of copies of each of these manipulatives. Kids will be able to drag them and drop them. And each slide is going to have to be for an individual kid. So they'll put their name here, or you can put their name in advance. So students can show us their work with manipulatives in Google Slides, but I can embed the Google slide into the Nearpod. I'm going to make sure that anyone can edit. They need to be able to edit in order to move those manipulatives. Copy the link, and then embed web content. That set of slides will now be embedded in the Nearpod. When we get to that slide in our Nearpod, students can work on it and I can watch them as they move those manipulatives around. And finally, we're going to look at using a self-paced Nearpod. So for example, this is the problem set for this day's lesson. I put each one on a different slide. We're going to make each one into a Nearpod, draw it. And now that each of them is a draw it, we'll be able to see students work on it. So we're going to save this to Nearpod. And if I'm teaching my concept development and my application problem and the rest of my lesson in Nearpod, then I don't need kids to open a new Nearpod. I can embed this in it. So I'm going to open it as student paste, copy the link, and go back to my main lesson. And again, embed this as web content in my main lesson. Now I'm putting the whole problem set. When they get there, they will go off on their own path at their own pace, but I'll still be able to see their work. They won't have to open anything new. Now the full lesson is done and the self-paced problem set is built in, and everything in this lesson I can see students work as they're doing it in the Nearpod. I'll be able to see their responses here, whether they're recorded or written to this open-ended question. I'll be able to see their responses here to their draw it, and I'll be able to see their responses in the self-paced Nearpod by clicking over and watching their work in their problem set. And as they work here through those problems, I will see their progress through their problem set.